What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of OverBOTCH. This is the mid-season madness roundup. We actually belayed our podcast last week because we were in the middle of the tournament itself, and we were co-streaming it. Thank you very much to the fine folks at the Overwatch League for including us as part of the co-streaming. A great idea. I hope that things like next year people can do that on Twitch and everything like that, just because the streaming environment on YouTube is growing, but it's still a little funky as far as management tools and streaming tools. But regardless, it was very, very cool to be included as a part of that crew. But regardless, we're starting here with Plex right now. Great Root Bear will be joining us. Richard, hell of a week.
Understatement of the century right there.
I mean, this was the first big major international tournament in a couple of years. Last year they did their Hawaii thing, but it was for the stage finals. It was only 2 teams from each region. So each stage only had 4 teams competing. Here we had 12, 8 from NA and 4 from APAC, and it was funky, and we'll get into some of this. It was funky from a logistical standpoint, in a lot of ways, and so I don't think anything can get away without a little bit of criticism, because nothing is ever perfect. But the seeming overall sentiment from the internet, especially focused on the gameplay and the actual matchups and the talent involved themselves, dynamite tournament.
Yeah. So we didn't get much 3 Overwatch, thankfully.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we were talking about right before we went live, is that, I mean, I can even pull it up here. You pull up the tournament page. I counted this out earlier. 22 matches played in all throughout the week. I think I got 6, and a lot of them only in the early stages. These round 1, round 2 matchups for the most part.
Of which Mayhem were one of them.
Yes, indeed. And so actually all of us got 3-0'd. Me, you, and Richard at some point got 3-0'd. So yeah. And then Shock did it to Shanghai in round 3. But yeah, only 6 matches out of 22 matches played were 3-0s, which in a tournament setting is actually really fun to see. I believe a lot of 3-1s and a fair amount of 3-2s. So there were a lot of close games in this one.
Yeah. It just goes to show how competitive the league is this year. It's not just the score lines, it's the compositions we saw as well. We saw pretty much anything and everything.
Yeah.
In terms of compositions.
Yeah, that's true.
We saw Reinhardt, we saw Winston, we saw Sigma. We even saw
Wrecking Ball, Doomfist.
Yeah. Anything and everything, apart from Orisa, which I'm a little bit sad about.
We saw a hog duel.
Yeah. What was it? It was Oasis City Center, I believe.
Yeah, it was Glad's in San Francisco winners final.
Which I must admit, when I first saw that composition week 1, I was like, oh god, this is so toxic. But when I actually looked at it again, I was like, that's actually pretty clever. You have the Roadhog in the central bit, holding down the point, and everyone else just spreads out.
Yep.
So when you think about it, it's very much a protect the president and King of the Hill style
scenario. Exactly. It was pretty damn entertaining. That was one of the cool things that we were talking about throughout, was that not only between the typical clash of APAC kind of plays this way, NA kind of plays this way, but even within those regions, just the meta isn't as. There's a couple key things that would shift, a couple clear Sigma maps, couple clear Doomfist maps, things like that. But all in all, and especially between the DPS and the and some of the supports and stuff like that, there was a lot of there was no last year. I felt like there were a lot of hard metas.
And it was pretty much especially
a lot of mirror compositions. Straight mirrors all the way through. If you couldn't play those, you got 3-0'd kind of scenarios. And here, there's a lot of we saw a lot of Ashe play.
Yep.
Coming into this one. Yep. Especially, but I mean, even a little bit countered and mirrored by the NA teams as well.
Mm.
Sojourn obviously super popular, but we Sombra getting a surprising amount of play as well.
Yeah. In
Yeah,
many different ways.
I thought it was really, really good. And there was some of the teams that really popped off were surprising.
Yeah. It's just
So
crazy.
yeah, talking about like your classic like underperformers, overperformers. So like I don't. I'm honestly trying to. It's all right. Let's start the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right.
Yeah.
Let's start with the bad. As far as performances goes, while we got the bracket up here,
Mm.
there's I wouldn't say there was a ton of honest straight up bad. Even the teams that went out early didn't like crap the bed unless your name is Toronto.
Yep.
And Richard's not here to defend, so boo on him. But I felt like I feel bad. I feel like they were the only ones who kind of went out with a whimper.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I mean, you'd expect some results to go a certain way, but even then, how they went that way, like you said, Toronto going out on a whimper, and then
Let's not forget about the I Toronto. Yeah, it's Toronto. I didn't
mm,
expect them to go
the
super
whipping
deep.
boys of this
But
bracket.
can we talk about Seoul Dynasty, winners of the APAC kickoff clash, going out losers round two?
Yeah, and
Like
especially
that.
with a goose egg against Hangzhou Spark.
Oh my god! And now Spark, we're gonna get to the Spark were one of my key overperformers for the tournament. I thought they did fantastic overall. But yeah, they got 3 overwatched, and then they lost to Atlanta. Like they got 2 maps the entire tournament
Yeah,
in the matter of
and
2 games.
let's say, and considering how dominant they've been as well in the APAC region, you think to yourself they'd actually you throw their weight around a little bit, but
I
that's
don't know. I mean, what happened? What happened? I mean, I feel like
your guess is as good as mine.
oh my god, I feel like Prophet was trying.
Hmm.
I feel like Prophet was trying to do Prophet things. I think Smurf underperformed and had a
Yeah,
couple of weird, like we've seen Smurf on the Zarya, but there were a couple games where it was like kickoff clash that worked great. I think wasn't a of all the tanks, Zarya didn't have a ton of use cases in this tournament, but I feel
hmm,
like there were a couple maps that Smurf tried to bust the Zarya out again on, and it just didn't work.
yeah,
And then I think Fitz too probably didn't live up. This was a tournament a lot of, to me, DPS diff.
yeah. I mean, especially if you look at the Hangzhou Spark in Seoul Dynasty match
Mhm.
itself, Shy and Alpha Yi just dominated the server, and then
Yeah.
it's just that's a case of the damage players in this tournament really stepped up in more ways than one.
And
And
I feel like where the meta is at right now is in a place where if your DPS can take over the game,
mm,
you it's a wash. You win. Like
yeah,
if they are able to find the openings and just and like take over and have those pop off performances, it is so game changing. No pun intended.
mm, yeah. The other team I want to sort of highlight as sort of underperforming is Dallas Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that got me when I watched them live, it was a case of there was a lot of uncertainty in their play,
Sure.
from what I could tell. And this is Dallas Fuel, regarded as one of the top teams in NA, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a case of I've never seen them look so uncertain, so lacking in confidence even in this season. It's just a case
Yep.
of no matter what, even if they looked uncomfortable this year, Dallas Fuel would give you a game. But right now, they just seem to not really have that flair, that spark.
They seem a little impotent,
Hmm.
if you will. I'm not saying anything about the individual players
I mean,
or coaches
they've
or
got,
staff.
like I say, they've got the quality of talent. There's no denying that. I mean, my big thing for them is why are they trying to force Edison in their lineups?
So
When
I
Doha Sparkle last year
yes.
dominated.
Yes. So I think this is one of they're finally, especially in Overwatch 2 and the setup that's going on now. I think not having a hit scan player or really a strong, dedicated hit scan player is really starting to catch up to them
Hmm.
in this. Before last year in Overwatch 1 and everything like that, their teamwork and coordination and that rush style that they played so well kind of covered up for it, and they were able to work around it. Here with it it was a faster pace, very DPS heavy, very individual heavy,
Hmm.
individual impact. I think not having you need it cracked. That's what's saving a lot. I think that, like, for Houston, I think that's saving the day for a lot of these
Yeah,
performances.
Merit.
Example, Merit is absolutely popping the fuck off on Sojourn and the like, and then in Pelicans there too. But like having those dedicated hit scans, I think is really helpful.
Yeah.
And speaking of having dedication, rolling in late to the show, our good
Okay.
friend.
Now
Hello.
we can stop talking bad about Toronto. Don't worry.
Well, don't worry. We
I mean,
already
they went out pretty early, but I think what we should really talk about is teams that didn't even make it.
Wait, why? All right, why even waste our time on teams that didn't make it? We're
They can
here.
still be okay.
There's 6 days of tournament
I know.
to cover.
This was I did catch what you were saying earlier though, but I will say I think this was one of the most fun tournaments to watch. It really was. The gameplay was awesome. You know,
Even at stupid o'clock like me.
yeah. Well, there's something to be said that, I mean, Plex, you are a machine when it comes to
Yeah, no
being
kidding.
able to manage this. I couldn't do it. And I have to think that it felt like it was worthwhile. And I think I think it's awesome if it was, because some tournaments you watch, you kind of hate watch them and you frustrate watch them, but there was some great stuff. And yeah, the actual game ended in a really weird kind of
Oh yeah,
laughable way.
we'll
Yeah.
get to that.
But like
that
that's
for a bit.
that's a minor honestly, that's a minor detail. And if anything, it adds to it follows the kind of thing that we expect to see
Sure.
in Overwatch League right now, and I don't think that's an issue, honestly. I teased Shock too, but yeah, come on now,
Yeah.
this was ridiculous. You were mentioning Merit, or as I like to refer to him as Mer1T. He is
Mer1T.
Mer1T was incredible.
And
Yeah.
we were just talking about
Just wild.
in particular.
Oh yeah,
because we're talking about like right before we get into the overall, we're talking about who kind of underperformed and why. So I was just talking about Dallas. They're going out
yeah.
quick, and I was saying, especially in Overwatch 2, I think that them not having that really strong dedicated hit scan DPS is catching up to them more than it did last year.
The thing for me is that Gurio is a talented player. It's just that there's a lot of weight, it seems, on his shoulders because last year Dallas didn't have a hit scan, and this year he is the hit scan. Edison's got that flexibility, but it's Gurio that's got the weight of expectation on him.
Yeah.
And realistically, had Gurio come into the league on a different team without that expectation, I think he'd be doing a lot better, but I don't think he deserves all the flack and stuff he's getting. He's performing, but it's just that I was saying this to Matt before you came in, Richard. I want to see the run with Doha Sparkle for a bit because that's the damage lineup. Because at the minute they're shoehorning Edison in pretty much all the time, just for the sake of it. And I just think to myself, run what good words, right? Run what worked last year for a bit and build from there. It's like it was Fearless Winston. You had Doha and Sparkle on Tracer Sombra respectively. So just go back to the past and build from there a lot of the time. I don't know if you agree with me on that one, Richard. So
Yeah, again, it's one of those cases where, you know, weird things happen in this game. You do get upsets, and I dig that. I actually don't think it's one of those cases where I have to believe that a lot of this comes down to, I mean, look, once you're in a certain strat, if it's the wrong one, your mechanical skills is not gonna save you. Not in this. It's just you run into issues. So yeah, I know you can beat up on Dallas. I did expect more soul. Same thing. You know,
we were just talking
for
about
sure.
that. Oh,
But then like again, it was one of those cases where it's like you took a look at the system and how they played, and it's like was it Atlanta when I was like, who was the team that kept running Sombra for no reason? Like they held on to it a little bit too long. Like they could have done so much better if they didn't keep playing the song. Well, it was Patapan, right? Was on for a little while. What kept
there
running
was
the Sombra?
yeah, there
Gladiators.
was one. Yeah, I think that was in the final, I believe.
Yeah, and it was like, guys, close this out. Like you gotta close this out, right?
Yeah.
And but it's one of those cases where for whatever reason they had that strat. For whatever reason they went with that, and it just wasn't working. And you have to adapt really, really, really fast. You've got to try new things. You've got to switch. The game is, there's a different meta for each map, and depending on who's set up against you, you've got to adapt. Like it's like, yes, there's a meta, but there are also adaptations. That's new. Like this kind of thinking is relatively new in Overwatch, to have to really get good at 3 to 4 variations or substitutes. And I think the teams, what we're seeing is some teams, like obviously they lock in their strats working. They haven't even had to face it yet. And I think what we're also seeing is that it's like, what are your adaptations? Do you fully swap? Do you sub? Are you changing one piece out? I think what we're going to have to see is these teams sort of adapt, like come up with those systems. And I think that's where we started to see the wobble in performance. It's just tough. Like, how do you rattle it down? It's not about is the main maybe the overarching strat can work, but you've got to go through those more surgical adaptations, and that's what we have to see. It's interesting because now it makes me really want to see more utility players in the league. I can people were saying, oh, I'm just benched, I'm riding the pine. I'm like, well, actually there's a huge role. We saw this all through the tournament. Like Glads were doing this. It's like who's going to be in, and you need that flexibility. And I have to think that this is something where when people look, Toronto does this really well. I know I always talk about them, but it's like people were always like, why do you need Muse at all? Like, do you remember like when the season started? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like he's really good, but he's different, and you have to be able to swap them. Like I wish you could swap between like a little bit faster between points, but that's just a personal thing. I wish you could do more hot swaps, but like I said, I think what we're seeing is, if you're too fixed on the strat, just the one, and you can't flex out or you haven't worked on those adaptations, it beats you up in a longitudinal tournament.
Which to me,
it can really hurt you in a tournament because you get solved.
It's like, because the other day, that's what I've been saying about with Houston Outlaws for a while. With Dante in the lineup, it's a case of what can you go to if the Doomfist doesn't work? I mean, Piggy is coming into his own. I'll say that.
Oh my God, Piggy, I think overperformed.
But
I loved seeing him just like he was the tank. You know what I mean? He felt like this huge beast of a tank. He had that presence in game. I was like, he's the King Kong Bundy right now. And I was like, but it was really wild to see that. Again, we've got this tendency in esports to be like, I know this name, therefore they're good. It's like fantasy booking in wrestling, where it's like at any moment, it's just whoever's big, but you don't actually expect anyone to know anything about who's going to come in the future, how to set up a roster, right? And a system and a fed that can last 3 years at minimum, right? Like it's very much flavor of the week. But like, that's I think Piggy is a great example of Houston had some great flexible options once they found that footing, or he found that footing, and the team got a system that could work with him. Because now you can at least get 2 Houstons, and it's completely different. Like a Ryan and a Doomfist, everything else changes, and I think that's awesome. Houston gets these great deck rollouts.
My biggest concern about Houston is, let's say it's mid-map, and the Doomfist isn't working. What then?
Yeah, then they're stuck in a case of hard of heart. You force it. You try. You swim
Brute force and
upstream.
ignorance. Yeah.
Yep. And they are probably, unfortunately, they're one of that look. And this comes back to DPS stiff. This tournament was, to me, was tank, but there was a ton of DPS carries.
Oh yeah. Well, the Sojourn finishes
Yes.
that's what
Were
will
key.
define this, like cleanup on Sojourn. Like with Sojourn, that defined this tournament, at least for me. It
Yes,
defined the
I
tournament
agree.
for me. You know,
players like Shy, Kai,
oh my god,
Merritt,
yeah, filthy.
Who I'm trying to Patafan,
Exy.
bunch of different players.
Yeah. And not even just on Soldier, you had the Ash as well.
Yeah, no, I mean there was a lot, but I mean I think Sojourn was probably the hero of the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Because it
In
was about that continuous damage,
Yeah.
but it was that insta cleanup. Like, you know, you're getting that. It's like when you used to get like on Dorado, where you get the really good widows, you know, in like earlier seasons, and you just couldn't move anywhere. But in this case, it was that brawl up front, and you'd get 2-3 Ks easily.
Yep.
There were a few wipeouts, you know, like Shy was disgusting. Merritt was disgusting.
Lip too on Shanghai was doing some
all of them have that.
stuff.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm really curious how Junker Queen's gonna land in, because the meta has to change so much now because of that stupid battle cry thing when everyone gets fast. It's like you have like moment in time goats, and you're already starting to see that, and at the contenders level, that you're basically recreating goats with the Junker Queen, which
heaven help us if that happens.
Oh my god, no, it's happening right now.
I watched a little bit.
It's happening, Plex, and it worries me because it is a very boring way to look at this version of the game. It really gets boring. So knock on wood or something else.
As long as something dies in the first 10 seconds, I'm not too bothered, because we had that with the zombie comp last year.
Yeah, again,
7 billion ultimates and then nothing died.
We'll have to wait and see. But again, like Glad's, man, I love the fact that they pulled that off, and they were tired. They'd already gone through a game. You know, I always, having, sort of seen up front, like what the effect is on teams doing, like, again, these continuous tournaments. It's exhausting. Yeah, Glad's is the best team in the league right now, because to do that run, to even just go through 2 games that long, and they went distance. They've been going a long time.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're eating for breakfast, but it's good.
They played 10 maps in a row.
I know.
Essentially, over the course of a couple hours.
Man.
Like it's a
lot. I mean, I lose interest in the
pressure.
Game. Like forget about pressure was one thing. Like just even having interest and being able to focus. You know, it's like that long. It's tough. It's tough. They did basically they did a battle royale. Like you just kept going.
Yeah.
So when you're the people who are like booked in the battle, like in the Rumble, and they do one of those things where you're the person who's got to come in first, and you got to like get tossed out, 27th or something.
Yep.
That entire time you have to make it look like you're doing something. That is friggin' hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to even keep interest or like make everything look intentional.
Yep.
And they did it, honestly. Like Glad's,
and
hats off to them.
Let's not forget also the cumulative effect of we mentioned playing 5 days in a row. Normally you play a weekend, you play maybe Friday and Sunday, maybe you play Friday, Saturday, maybe play Saturday, Sunday, whatever. But to play for some of these teams, like I remember played started on Monday, like Atlanta. Atlanta played 6 days in a row.
Yeah, and Houston at one point would play consecutive days.
I think
absolutely
almost,
bonkers.
if you look at almost everybody played multiple consecutive days, but like 4 or 5 days in a row for some of these teams.
Yeah, I mean that. Sorry, go ahead, Plex.
Yeah, so what I think we've seen is we saw a lot of sort of like passion in these teams, like Florida Mayhem against London Spitfire. There's that hunger. They wanted to progress, so they got the reverse sweep. We saw all that with a lot of teams. Like yes, you're not going to be doing very well, but we're going to still drag ourselves kicking and screaming. And we learned a lot about the mental fortitude of these teams in this
Oh yeah.
bracket.
Oh yeah.
And I want to give a special shout out to the Philadelphia Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did all this in probably the most difficult circumstances in recent years because they had a COVID outbreak in their camp, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Bellis Ria, to me, was player of the tournament. His wrecking ball was insane.
It was insane. It was nuts.
That's valid.
And the fact that he was doing that while unwell, if he could pull that off when he's fully fit, watch out.
That's what
know.
a lot of people. So they a couple of them were sick and like were still like recovering. So they were not in their regular facility. I don't even know, to be fair. Were they even all playing together, or were they online in different places?
It's hard to say what the requirements were, right? I'm assuming they weren't able to leave. I think they had to come up with an alternate solution because you
Like a
wouldn't be able
bubble
to move.
somewhere,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the team can stay together, but if you're in a hotel, you can't go between the rooms. You've got to
Right,
stay.
right.
It
Yeah.
sucks. You
Yeah.
can't eat well. You can't walk around. You can't do anything.
You're just
Flex, I think
uncomfortable. You're just uncomfortable
yeah,
the whole
bang,
week.
you're bang on, man. They
because I remember when Florida Mayhem, when the COVID outbreak first happened, they were all playing in their apartments, individual rooms.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what that was
Oh,
like.
yeah.
Assuming that was a similar thing for Philadelphia Fusion. But hats off to that team. Bellatria was fantastic.
Mhm.
Ain Godblum performed. Fixer saved the day on multiple occasions. And then, of course, there's Zest and MN3.
Yeah.
Mm,
just
yep,
again
Pick the
totally
game by
fair.
the scruff of the neck all the time.
Yeah. Who put the team on their back. Yeah. And to go as deep as they did, considering all the conditions, beat a lot of teams nobody expected them to beat.
Mhm.
Who did they end up taking on?
They
They lost to Spark. Then they beat Dallas. They beat Florida. Then they came back and beat Spark. So revenge arc
Mhm.
in full effect.
Yeah.
Before finally dropping to Atlanta. But man, they had some really, really, really good performances.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Along the
everything.
way.
So
Yes.
hats
Oh,
off
yeah.
to that team. They've earned my respect. Full stop.
Yeah.
I think we could safely say that, like I said, we've discovered a lot about these teams mentally.
Mhm.
You can now see who has the confidence, who has the drive, who has the passion.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, and they're gonna
crazy.
need that confidence once Junker Queen hits because she never dies.
Never dies.
I will say
No!
though, I think the only thing that I found frustrating or annoying about the tournament was this like overly heavy-handed attempt to keep talking about how this is the first global tournament ever. Blah blah. I'm like, guys, you realize there's contenders teams that have players on one team from 4 continents.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know your own product. Like, you don't even know how, like, what makes this truly international that hasn't been done before.
I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, in a game like this, when you want to talk about like these international, you realize most of these teams have players from these American
But,
teams
there are
are.
teams playing with players in different countries.
Oh yeah.
So and that's been done for years. Like,
Well,
since
not just that,
literally every time we go online and you go on a Korean server for comp, you're playing with people from all over the world. That's
Yeah.
literally international, and they're all playing online. The game, even the tournament, wasn't even a LAN. So I don't see how this tournament was the first internet truly global tournament. It's like
It wasn't the first. They didn't tout it they touted it as the first in a couple of years since before COVID.
But it's not though. Like, contenders teams are literally playing in different countries.
Brother, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I
It's a
but
good
I just
hook.
think
It's a
that-
hook. And it's and then we're not talking about contenders. We're talking about Owl, and we're talking about the 2 regions in a full capacity, in a more full capacity, playing against it. That's literally.
I know,
all
but
the
like, you're
little
playing
things.
online. Like,
I know,
why?
but-
It's like the internet is this.
Guys.
Plex, get this. Plex. This is the first truly international podcast talking
I mean,
about
in
Overwatch.
in OverBOTCH history, that's true.
You know, like, think about it. We are in 3 different countries.
Exactly.
Never been done before. Never heard
Not
of
by us.
a telephone. a long distance call.
You're getting
Like-
see, here's the thing, you're getting caught up in the truth, and that's you will never sell
Totally
pay-per-views
And Richard,
by,
can I,
you know, by,
can I just
Fair,
say,
fair.
Richard,
fair. Yeah.
what percentage of the Overwatch League fan base actually watch Contenders that would know about that?
Well, no, like the reason I think it's really silly is like, and again, I'm biased because I know this. So when
Clearly.
we were running Revival, okay, so Revival, we literally had a player in Bulgaria, in Denmark, USA, and Canada playing at the same time. Like, if that is not something you want to celebrate, bringing people together and trying to figure out a way to make it work. Our poor friend, Boger, who's playing on Central European time, it was a 7-hour gap.
Mm-hmm.
That's way harder than saying, well, we're going to fly half of the teams to Hawaii to reduce the gap. They're actually presenting the thing that's less impressive. That's less endearing to people who can understand what the passion and the love of the game can drive you to do. But again, I just thought it's so funny because I saw all these execs going on truly global tournament. And I'm like, the fact that you're playing online means you're not really global. I'm sorry. Like, come on, man.
But
You're just
yeah,
nitpicking at
You
this
literally
point.
flew people to centralize in Hawaii. That's like less global than having you all play at a very structured facilities within your home cities.
Look, to be fair, they're in a state, they are like, here's the thing, it's one of those things, at the end of the day, you are 100% right.
They just need a PR hook. I know they needed something
yeah,
on a PR byline,
something
but
to sound good and to look good on a piece of paper. And
but I was laughing because you even saw like, and they get the talent to go in on it too. And I'm like, you cast these Contenders games. Come on. Like the Toronto Defiant Goats tournament was international.
Yep. Yeah. No, again,
Like,
it's all, but it's marketing. It's marketing.
I know.
I
But
know.
like those bad PR lines, like not for nothing. Like I just hope, I just wonder how many people like buy into it because I think it's a disfavor to people. Like you see the work being done right now around the Contender Summer Series and all that work. Like that's a ton of work. You look at how well it's structured, how well it's set up. It's done really nicely. You see every independent tournament, the community tournaments, and I'm like, you want to act as if they're not doing exactly the same thing with none of the money, with no dollars. You don't even let them get sponsors. Like, that's love of the game. That's the thing you celebrate. Because if anything, these guys had, like I said, like organizationally, this was the easy part. Like they're like, oh, it was really hard to do. I'm like, yeah, did you have a budget? Did you have money? Clearly you could fly people. Did your teams have money? Did everyone cover their costs? Come on now. It ain't that bad. Anyway, I digress.
Well, no. That's totally valid. And like, look, we talked about all the kick-ass action, and we'll talk about more of it. But the highs come with the highs, come the lows, and you know what I mean. And you want to, hey, Contenders talk about doing at least there was prize pool money. Thank goodness, because apparently there wasn't any other money.
Well, they did space them out.
This is the early photo. Yes, they changed the desks out. They weren't curved, and they spaced them out a little bit. So that said, this is a point of contention for a lot of people because a lot of people were like, "Well, whatever, they're playing. Who cares?" And I'm like, I don't know. There is something to be said for presentation.
Yeah,
I think, especially when if you are a tier one, you're one of the best top tier esports or sports or broadcasts in your realm. There is something to be said for presentation. And 100%. I made us think, for example, about like the fact that this backdrop doesn't go up to the ceiling. Right.
I mean,
and I
you could smell the other people, man, the other team sitting this close.
You could smell probably the classworm doing, like their Web3 work on the other side of the
the drop ceiling, probably something I wouldn't showcase.
Things like this. And so somebody pointed out to me, they were like, oh, well, on camera, and even the not player cams, like the broadcast cameras, they kept it low. But that said, I'm like, you had to be so careful about doing that. I'm like, you couldn't. A couple thousand extra dollars
they were missing some basic things, like when you introduce a team, like there was no space. You couldn't do like camera angles that I thought were missing because everything was hard cams. That was the other thing that I thought was like such a dead giveaway. It was all hard camera angles.
Yes.
And I was like, guys, where's the person who walks in front of the computers? You know, like you do the walk by.
Mhm.
So each person like kind of says hi because it's like it's great B-roll, and you just like scroll past like left to right. Like, guys, that's like a standard thing to show. But also, though, what I thought was funny, again, it's this whole apologist angle behind everything. Like, oh, the presentation was good. I loved seeing the team interactions. Newsflash, that only friggin' works if only the North American teams work. This was not a plan.
Yep.
This had nothing to do with what they wanted. Imagine
Oh yeah,
if
no,
the
no,
finals
absolutely not.
were two of the Asian teams. It would have been worse. It would have been it would have been no different than everything that we've seen so far, that every Contenders broadcast, that every amateur broadcast. It would be a bunch of webcams and people playing online. So that's what I think is funny. Now they're saying, oh, I love the interactions and the middle fingers. Guys, that literally only worked if only the North American teams won. This was not part of the plan.
Yes.
So this is why I'm saying, like, and I agree with you on this, Matt, this concept of presentation, they are lucky that Shock and Glads made it, that it was the NA teams that made it all the way.
So you had some kind of interaction.
Imagine if it was like Glads and, you know, like any of the Asia teams, you'd have their table and then a bunch of cameras. So you probably would have defaulted to only showing cameras. Like, none of this makes sense.
And can we like just again, I'm not asking for Valorant Masters level like stage design.
I want fireworks.
But God, can we not have the fluorescent lighting CNBC like shot where it's like everybody's washed out in this, it looks like a crummy
well, didn't you notice how bad the camera was that was actually looking at the player tables?
Yeah,
like it was.
That's what I mean.
It was like one of those like 1999 to 2003 Logitech webcams that were like the spheres that sat on a little tripod.
Yes,
with a little visor that would open and close, and they left the visor half closed so it affected the light dispersion. And that's the thing. I'm like, I think they actually got out really lucky. And if this is what they're going to celebrate as the greatest thing we've ever pulled off, that ain't good, because the actual number of people that watched the games was not great.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
For a major tournament, it was pretty mediocre.
It was very average. It was very, very look, it was not for something that they're touting to be so awesome. And I think it was Mitch, right, that talked about this a bit. He goes, look, no matter what we say, we know that the in-person is the thing we really need, because that's the only thing that separates this from like the experience and how you display it from anything else. Right. I think Uber mentioned that on Twitter, and he's right, because you need this, because without this, there's no differentiation. No amount of broadcast assets or bumpers are going to change this. So like Bert's saying, they set up a PC cafe basically. And I'm like, actually, Bert, I think they set up a shitty PC cafe, because I would never go to a LAN center that looked like this.
Well, the thing for me is that, so I will only admit, I watched the Smite Pro League, and they have a full-blown studio in Georgia, and they have all the teams in the league centralized in that position. It's like they all live in Georgia for the SPL, and their studio is really top of the line. It's nothing compared to like the Valorant stage or anything like that, but you can have all 10 players, their coaches, the casters, all in the same room pretty much at the same time. So imagine if that was what they're doing with the Overwatch League. But obviously, of course, COVID is still a thing, and we have to respect the fact that we can't get everything we want. But at the same time, you could have done better.
That's and I think that's the biggest thing to me, is I am totally understanding of the idea of like you couldn't, especially with Nets. The thing, a lot of people made like the Valorant thing, and I don't think that's totally fair. They don't have any, I don't believe, or very few Chinese teams, and the travel issues with China and lockdowns and everything are ridiculous. So getting people out of there or anybody to there is like next to impossible. So I am sympathetic to that idea. There's a huge Chinese presence for Overwatch League. So it is a pain right now. It is
Yeah,
a
I mean
nightmare.
they had to break the firewall rules just to have the teams on here. I mean,
yes,
I'm sure somewhere in some law they broke the law by having this tournament happen.
yes, probably. So like I get, so I get it, but my only thing is, one, if you're Blizzard, yes, your plan was to do some type of LAN. If this was, I don't remember if this was like plan B or plan
This
C.
was plan B, yeah.
If this is plan B, like you don't tell me you couldn't picture a world where you would need to go to your plan B. And I'm like, and again, that this is the bad.
Well,
You didn't have an
let's
arena, or like again an auditorium at the University of Manoa. Give me
Yeah,
an
well-
auditorium. It's summer session. There can't be too much going on.
Yeah, I mean, also, they used to have the Blizzard Arena. So in theory, they
Right.
could have gone there. But obviously, the Chinese and Korean-based teams, it's not just to getting out the country, it's also going back into the country, because I think some of them have quarantine rules as well.
Oh yeah, it's strict.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
very strict. I mean, we
Yeah.
knew that you couldn't move people no matter what.
Right.
That's why I think it's actually like, look, I mean, I've done, like, I work with in a lot of, so at Advanced, you know, one of the things we always had to work around was shipping, right? And you get a lot of product like plastics from China. It happens, or international, period. Like, I lived through that entire thing where there was like the 57 ships like off the port of Los Angeles. Like,
Oh,
our
yeah.
stuff was in those boats. It was crazy. So we're like, it may or may not show up in 6 to 12 months. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what can you do? None of this is new. It is 2022.
Yes.
We have had travel realities for
2.5 years.
2.5 years now. 2.5
Yep.
years. If anything, this option should have been plan A. Anybody in logistics, anybody in planning,
Could have
you
seen,
make this
yeah.
your plan A. And the alternate is you see if there's a potential to go there. But the problem is, if you have to synchronize, you know, 4 continents worth of, or 3 continents, right, worth of policy, the answer is usually don't do it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
let's
that's
hope
why I
that
think
they
it's
learn the
really funny.
lessons. I think that's one thing we can all agree on, is that let's hope the league has learned from this to hopefully, if it has to come up again, they'll be better prepared. But we'll see, because next one is a individual area.
Regionals, yes.
Yeah.
Regional tournaments,
Which
for the
is
summer
going to
showdown.
be here.
In Toronto. So yeah, like we can kind of look at ahead to that. It was gonna be my next thing, is like kind of summer showdown predictions. We're going back to regional showcases. Do we know if they're going to attempt to do an Asia LAN? Because last time they didn't for kickoff.
I don't think
Clash.
so. I think they're just going to play online
Yeah, probably.
because you
Yeah.
can't sort out Korea versus
Korea and
China travel
China, yeah,
not
yeah.
easily. Again, just saying, they couldn't do this for the regionals. Why the hell would you be able to do it here? Like, make them go further.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
Well, the plan is supposedly, what we keep getting told though, is for playoffs and grand finals at the end of the season, come October, November, or whatever. The plan is to get everybody here all on land.
yeah, get everybody to go to Hawaii. That's what they're going to try to do.
Hawaii, or I heard like Dallas or something, like to this. To
Yeah, a
Texas or
central
something like
location
that.
either way.
Yeah,
I heard that they were going to try to get everybody to the States.
I will bet you both a root beer that is not going to happen.
You think we'll end up with
Right
a similar
now.
scenario?
It will not happen. It won't.
Oh,
So if I'm
Well-
wrong, I will send you both a root beer.
Wait, can we get the root a little root
The
beer
little
plushie
kit
too?
where you have to
Yeah.
like brew your own. Actually, you know what?
No,
That
no,
might-
no, the little plushie, the root beer plushie. Like, can we
Actually,
get a little...
you know what? I will mail you little root bears. Like,
Okay.
there's mini ones. There's mini ones. I will send you root bears.
Excellent.
but no, getting back to the subject I had here. So predictions.
Yes.
Personally, I think we're going to see largely the usual suspects. Like,
Mhm.
you'll get your Shocks, you'll get your Gladiators for NA, you'll get possibly the Dragons and Soul for APAC. But I think realistically, it's going to come down to who fills those last 2 spots in each region.
Mhm.
Because like this time around, so in the first one for NA, we had Washington Justice. In this
Mhm.
time around, we had London Spitfire. So what's to say we couldn't see another team step up and take that last spot?
Boston,
Yeah, they've been
maybe
on
Vancouver.
no.
Yeah, now you're just asking for it, Matt.
Yeah.
Especially from
What?
a hardcore Toronto guy.
Oh,
Vancouver's going nowhere but down.
Yeah, but no,
They're going to be the Hartford Whalers of
Oh,
the
good.
Overwatch League.
I'll take your word on that.
They'll be the
But no,
Coventry City of Overwatch League. Once upon a
Right.
time had potential. Down, down, down.
Yeah.
See,
But-
Plex knows that one, which is a
Yeah,
shame. I
but-
really did. I have a lot of respect for Coventry as a team, but
But no, I mean,
things happen.
at the end of the day, I think realistically it's going to come down to what will the meta be. Because we're all
Yeah.
predicting Junker Queen. I think we can safe to say that.
Really
But what-
quick.
Mhm.
Now, because Junker Queen
Mhm.
got a nerf from when she was brought into that second beta. There was a mid beta patch
I
where
think
that
there was some
shout.
sort of change, but I don't remember.
I
what
don't
it
know if
was.
that will be in Owl next stage, that nerf, or if
I
it
would
will
assume
just
that they
be
would be
the.
playing on the most up to date beta.
I would think so too, because
Yeah.
her shout thing that you mentioned before, which was a really annoying thing. I don't think it's still there. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. But they did nerf the duration, the cooldown, and I believe its effectiveness. It
Yeah.
still does all the same things, but it's just all shrunk a little bit.
And look at how much they nerfed Brigitte, and still Goats was still meta.
True.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think it'll be a goats type of thing. I don't know the specifics of it, but I think we'll still see a lot of similarity because, like, in the end, right? Even if it's goats like, there are mathematical realities to the damage you deal with certain areas. Like,
mhm.
again, Sojourn is a damage dealer. No matter how you position it, she's a damage dealer, right?
Hmm.
So if you've got her running, you still need to be that person, that team that has an ace, like an
Yeah.
ace who can get those at minimum 2Ks.
Sure.
Finish off
Mm.
one person, railgun with a second.
Yeah.
We're gonna need that because
See,
that game, it's like the games now that they're basically always running at 100%.
Hmm.
Which, when you think about it, is kind of a problem in the game design because she probably shouldn't be running at 100% so easily all the time.
So you think she needs maybe a little bit like a slower charge? Needs
Yeah,
to
I have a
charge up
feeling they're
little
going to take
slower.
away like charge up on like, because you can shoot.
Yeah.
Remember we saw things like shooting mines and shooting shields, like that just gets you a little bit up. I think we're going to see that go.
I
Yeah.
can see that.
well, here's my question to you guys. I'll come to that first. Do you think Moira will have an impact on the meta? Because I think she will.
Well, that's a good point. So her
Moira's the other hero we need to watch out for.
her little rework will be live, right?
Yeah, with that new
Presumably.
necrotic orb.
Yeah, the new. So it depends. Yeah, I think. Well, we've already seen
Can you-
teams continuing to. For lack of a better term, force the rush that Lucio Moira a little bit.
Hmm.
So
'Cause-
maybe now they continue to do so with
Yeah.
this new ability.
Because this is my follow-up.
Yeah.
Can you see a world where Moira and Junker Queen are played together? Like these two, we can agree,
Hmm.
are probably the strongest heroes in this most recent beta for different reasons.
Sure.
So can you see the two of them playing together in the same composition?
Oh, I mean, I could. Absolutely.
But would it work though? Because hypothetically, you'd have to run a comp. If you want to run both, I would say you have to have Lucio for the speed boost,
Mm-hmm.
and then you need two characters that can play both at close range but at long range as well. So I'd say May Reaper. It's like
Yeah, that could
the
work.
best way I can put it is there was a version of Double Shield that did a similar thing in the original. I think it was like the 2019 playoffs where it was May Reaper. It's a May Reaper composition of some sort at that time. So I could see something like that happening because
Mhm.
you could have the coalescence to keep the Reaper up and running. May can self-sustain. Junker Queen can go, hey, have a bit of extra health for a minute. Yeah, and then you got Lucio to get everyone in and around. So I could see that sort of comp, but obviously that's just my honest opinions based on what we know. But of course, we don't know. And
Right.
our league players, they might have something different in mind.
Mhm.
Because as long as we see the same variety of compositions, I don't mind.
Sure.
Because each map, as you said earlier, has its own meta. As long as we see that, I'm not bothered. Because it's when you get that one composition that's good everywhere, that's
Mhm.
when the problems arise. Because that's what Goats was. It's like,
Yeah, it
no matter
was the
what the map-
same everywhere you went.
Yeah.
It also didn't help that we had 2 CP maps. Like that didn't help
Yeah.
the situation at all.
Well, what always got me with the Goats mess was the same year they started having Control as the opening map. And it would be a case of doors open, teams charge forward on Goats, and then nothing happens for 10 to
Oh,
30
So
no.
seconds.
I will say, getting back to the Moira point, the one thing I hope doesn't happen, and I think this will especially happen if Junker Queen becomes a little bit more meta, is presumably she'll be a hard target of that necrotic orb, which again is not an ultimate, it is a cooldown. So
Mhm.
it's a longer cooldown, but it's similar to like a sleep dart.
Yep.
And I just, she already she doesn't have any one ability that is like devastating. Her gun, it does decent damage. She's got her knife, she's got her axe, and then her ultimate. Not one of
passive.
them is like, yes, the passive is what does it. It's a lot of little chunk damage, and then she's healing herself, and so that's what makes her so unkillable. In
Mhm.
addition to her the shout buff. But so then you hit her with that necrotic orb, and now she's already doing even less damage. But here's the bigger thing that which I worry about with that ability. And this is a selfish thing. This is from a league fan thing. This is from us watching the games thing. I worry that it could make for really dull gameplay because it does. It just from a visual and I get it from a tactical. I mean, boom, somebody pops a Genji blade, shoot him with the orb. But the thing is, it's different than a sleep dart has. And I'm coming now from like a TV drama standpoint. Something like a sleep dart has that ability, that instant boom, they're down on the ground. Oh shit!
Yeah.
Everything
crowd going.
stopped. Everything. What just happened? Here, everything keeps going.
Yeah, it just
but
slows it
You're
down.
just swinging around like, is it swinging a noodle around, or you're
Yeah.
shooting your railgun turns into a Nerf gun. So it's just like, oh, it's just damn. Okay,
Yeah.
nothing dramatic is happening, but it's just boring.
It just slows it down, right? That's actually what happens. If both Moiras landed, the game just lasts longer.
Yeah, and it
This is
just
one of
everyone's just going.
And that's kind of the
just
problem I
running
had with
around.
the zombie comp in the Doom Joust last year, which was Winston Diva, Moira Lucio, Reaper Echo. Nothing died. I mean, there was one match, I think it was a San Francisco Shock. I can't remember who they were playing against. I think it was Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
It was on second point Anubis. And I think they dropped like 10 ultimates in one team fight and no one died.
Yeah, that's insane.
As long as we don't have anything like that.
I remember that. It was just awful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole clip on Overwatch League's YouTube about it. Like, nothing died.
Yeah.
And I just think to myself, please don't give us anything like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, honestly, we just have to see what happens.
Because at the end of the day, with even double shield is a hated comp, but at least you could have, say, an Ashe get a lucky headshot and things like that.
Sure.
So things happened. Whereas with something like the zombie comp and Goats, nothing happened for long periods.
So that is one thing I guess, yeah, I totally agree with. And I'm hoping isn't a super like long-term thing. And then hopefully as we get more and more heroes, things become more varied and more interesting.
Just make Orisa better.
With
I
sure.
want Orisa.
But with these shields away, I hope it just doesn't turn from the horrible double, hey, we're shooting 6 different shields to, hey, all our supports and even like tanks have these abilities to just nerf and
Make impotent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everybody. So like, so instead of shields, we just have all these debuffs. That's
I know. Yeah, I know. And everyone's just going to be running around with Mr. Floppy. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Blue Chew does not
everyone
sponsor
will be
this show
Mr.
yet,
Birds trying
but
to slap
we'll
someone,
work
like,
on it. Yeah, exactly. It's like Cartman in the boat when he's trying to kill Stan, or was it Kyle?
Oh, yeah.
With the baseball bat, the Godfather style. Yeah. Just stay still, Stan. Just stay still.
Yeah. Everything's going to be all right.
Not too much longer.
Oh, that was a weirdly good impression.
That was a pretty good
Flex.
Cartman.
Whoa.
I can go there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But regardless, I mean, yeah, that I almost forgot about that big Moira rework, the new hero,
Mhm.
new map presumably as well with Parizo. So
Yep.
it should be at least an interesting stage. That's for sure.
yeah. Of course, maps will be a factor in all this because assuming they refresh the map pool as well, we
Yeah.
could see Nubani come back as an example. Junker
Junkertown.
Town,
Yep.
which would make sense because obviously Junker Queen.
Sure.
And I want to see Bussard again.
Oh
Bussard is an
yeah.
amazing map. One of my
Abs-
favorites.
Absolutely. I always love that one. But and of course we'll try well, like I said, I will try to. I'm keenly observing and trying to get up to Toronto.
Yep. I'll give you
for
some
the
tips when
actual-
you come here. Just for anybody watching, a few things you should know about Toronto that weekend and why, if you are thinking about doing it, get your hotel now. Do not wait. That
Mm.
weekend,
Mm.
that week,
There's
it's
already
the
other
closing
stuff going on,
weekend.
right?
It's
Yeah.
the closing week of TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival,
Which is big.
that's going to knock out every single hotel on the King Street Strip and all the fancy bougie ones. Then all the Airbnbs and all the other things. That weekend, Rolling Loud Festival comes through Toronto, largest hip hop festival on the planet. Maybe with or without Kid Cudi, I don't know. Depends if someone throws stuff at him like a bozo again. But be ready because that's going to knock out the Airbnbs quite a bit. Elton John is doing his tour. He's coming through that Thursday, so people will be doing their weekend in Toronto as
Wow.
well too. So they actually chose the single worst weekend you could actually host an event in the city.
Yeah.
But hey,
here's what you do. Here's
plan
what you do.
A, right?
But
But I'm also fairly certain they're going to be at Ryerson at the Mattamy Athletic Center, which is where they've been holding the CDL tournaments. And like any city, we have different areas that are more or less walkable
Mhm.
at different times. Don't get a hotel near that venue,
Yeah,
please.
so what you're
And
saying,
don't
Richard,
get
what
the
you're saying,
don't get the
Richard,
Airbnbs you see on Church Street there.
Yeah,
It's in the village. Wonderful place to visit. Awesome. It can get a little bit hectic at times, a little bit
Yeah.
crazy because people do like they rent them as like party lofts,
Okay,
things like that.
So, Richard, what you're saying is Matt should stay with you for a few days.
You know, you actually are more than welcome, right? The farmhouse is big. You won't have to stay in the barn, although you could if you want to. But it's not a fun barn with animals. Like you won't have like the horse.
No, just bees.
Yeah, just bees. Bees everywhere. You can sleep with the bees. No,
You can do Nicolas Cage impression.
Oh God.
No, but really, if you are looking at coming up, anybody looking at coming up, definitely start looking
at it now. Yeah.
And if anyone needs any advice on like regions or areas, just give me a shout. But my recommendation, quite frankly, is don't stay downtown. Go to Midtown. Go a little bit north. Go north of Bloor Street. Everything's on the same subway line because again, they're going to be at Mattamy most likely because they're definitely not at Roy Thompson Hall. It's too big, too expensive. The league and the team could never afford that. Their other options are Ricoh Coliseum, which make no sense because you're in a hockey arena. And they've already done it at Mattamy at Ryerson. I guarantee you they're going to do it there as well too, which also means they're only going to have about 3,800 tickets.
Yeah, well,
Give or take.
anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, and then think about it. I just looked just to make sure those dates or whatever. That starts this Thursday, September 8th. It's just over a month away. It's not.
It's also not
far
summer.
away.
Like they're like summer showdown. Trust me, in Toronto, if it's September, it is not going to be summer.
Wait, is it already getting cool in
Oh
September?
yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's over.
Ooh,
It's
I love
over. Oh yeah.
Lucky
No,
you,
you'll have a
lucky.
great time. But I will be finally bringing back some Alpha Flight events. For that, like a little bit of a roll up. We've had a few of the supporter clubs kind of poking around, seeing if we're going to do a home front, like a charity support series.
Sure.
So I might connect that in with the events that week. But we'll see. Because I'm not sure what Defiant is planning yet. But there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of great food to eat, and I'll give you all of the guidance. And we'll do some walking tours. Again, assuming you can make it up here. And Plex, maybe we should start a fund. The ship Plex to Canada.
Ship Plex to Canada.
Yeah, in a
Absolutely.
little box.
Yes.
Well.
But before that, guys, and before we go today, as a result of the Midseason Madness tournament,
Here we go.
yes, indeed, that time has come again because there was a lot of cross play in the tournament, and Toronto played the Outlaws Florida played the Outlaws. And despite the fact I will give this credit, Florida technically went the furthest in the tournament out of all three of our teams. And Richard, before you got on, we did like to point out also all three of our teams all got 3-0'd at some point.
I know.
But Mayhem did the best.
Mayhem
They did.
technically
They did the best. No question
Yes.
about it.
Map difference wise and everything. They did go the
technically I
go the
win there.
farthest. Yes, but in head-to-head matchups, Houston beat both teams throughout at different times in the tournament. So our standard bet when our home teams clash, the loser has to go buy a skin for one of their heroes of that other team. So Richard has already got his Winston in the black and green. But before we get into the promo section, because I wrote a short promo for each person, Plex went ahead and ran a poll for everybody
awesome.
to join to which role.
Tank. Awesome.
So Tank won out, and Plex, you said you want me and Richard to decide which hero.
We discussed this earlier. So I've got two heroes in mind that I main a lot.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you two gentlemen decide. So we have the Tank, which I think was quite close to the top end.
Yes. So 33% to 44%.
Yeah. So between the two of you, right now, you've got to choose Orisa or Reinhardt. Those are the two main tanks I play if I'm on Tank.
Ooh, I mean, I got to go Ryan.
Yeah, you know what? I like Ryan. Big shield.
Okay.
You've also brought up the value of Ryan in different types of metas. I feel like Ryan.
Swing that big green and black
Plus, it
hammer,
looks
baby.
good. It's a great looking skin.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the black and green does look awesome.
It is a cool,
obviously hardcore Mayhem fan here, so
yep.
I appreciate everyone who voted, but I also hate you.
So
I mean, I've been switching people as Winston. It's been awesome.
See, the Outlaws buff has helped Richard.
Oh yeah,
destroy on Winston.
You do realize that we're gonna get you at some point.
We'll see.
We're going to inadvertently 3-0.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you get a Titan skin.
We've got it has to be we're not changing that around. Otherwise, we'd all be making each other get Titan skins.
Yeah,
we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that.
You know what? We are not that mean spirited. We are friends after all.
Yes.
I mean, friends don't make friends don't have friends wear Vancouver Titan skin in Overwatch.
That's right.
Now comes the fun part.
So they each had these promos. They're a little bit shorter than we've done in the past because there's both of them here. So we will start with Plex. When I remove us from the thing, Plex, it'll be all you. This is a short and sweet promo. So just give us a read. We'll clip this for later. Bye.
Someone is no one. Hydrate needs to hydrate. Checkmate. Well, face himself, it seems. Exy took an exit. Sermajet should lose his knighthood, and Anima should remain anonymous. And RuPaul just lost this drag race. Queen, I will yeehaw and wear my green and black with pride.
Woohoo!
I probably won't.
You missed the Queen a little bit. I wanted a little bit of like a gas Queen. Thing.
That was a dry read. So
I know, no, but I
didn't see that until the last second. So
that's quite all right. All right. Richard, you will be up next. And
I will keep this simple and I will keep this sweet. Both Houston and Chicago have far better food and culture than Toronto has had or ever will have. I will wear my green and black monkey skin with pride, and I will bow down to any and all outlaws that come my way as I feed my way into a tiny midtown alley and shoot at the sky. So saith the great Texan bear.
Huzzah! Beautifully.
Had to go down the alley again, didn't you?
Of course.
Of course. Look, here's the thing, guys. If Reaper shows up in the meta, I guarantee you we're going to see weird alley air guns again.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say, like, all, you know, my sort of prodding and poking at the league and you know, aside, I think I'm really excited for the next stage. I just, you know, I hope it's not like GOAT style brawl, but let's just assume, let's be optimistic and hope
Sure.
it isn't. Man, the team, the gameplay is in a good place right now. It looks good. It's exciting. And it's
Yes.
also not that tough to follow right now. Removing all the shields and the blooms and reducing the rosters by 1 has made the game a lot more viewable.
clean.
And now that
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
in a little while and everybody's getting used to it, they're getting access to the game, they're getting used to it. It looks good. I think it looks better than the first Overwatch did at this point, because that was always too fast for a good portion of the population. So I'm excited as heck. I think it's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Hats off to them for actually making some positive changes. I mean,
Yeah.
it felt weird to begin with, because obviously you're looking for the 6th player a lot of the time, but now it feels almost natural, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It does.
And hats off to like I said, considering not only the circumstances of a less than ideal logistical kind of setup for this tournament, and in general so far this season for the players who have been very public about this and everything, with the weird way they're doing the beta and everything, it's hard for these players to grind and train and practice outside of their very specific scrim block. So like all of these overarching little logistical things, the level of play continues to be very, very high and very, very exciting.
Yeah.
So hats off to the talent and players.
Yeah. Sure, you don't get more illegal
100%.
maneuvers, but still.
Yeah, absolutely.
More illegal maneuvers.
Push those laws, those boundaries. But until next time, everybody, we will come back next week with, I believe it's still an off week, of course, this week, but we'll be coming back next week with a preview for the first week of Summer Showdown qualifiers, and see where some of these teams lie, where they're gonna lie, who get those opening matchups, who's gonna start off with a bang. So everyone else, do us a favor. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, whatever platform you are on. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, go check us out. We are verified creators on Juked GG, a brand new platform for all your esports news, enthusiasm, community, whatever the esport you follow is, whether it is the Overwatch League, Valorant, Rocket League, League of Legends, whatever. It's all on there. It's a very clean format. It's a lot more congenial than something like a Reddit, something like that. Same info, less filling, as we said earlier before the stream today. So until next week, everybody, for the great Texan Bear, for Texamatic.
How long were you sitting on that one?
I don't.
He was waiting.
No,
Flex,
just
that was
in
like
my
the
head.
whole night. He's like,
no. Because if I would have thought of that, it would have been in his promo. It would have been in your promo.
True.
I kind of feel like an idiot for not putting that there. But anyway, until next week, everybody, take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Yeah.